We all love the Phineas and Ferb crew, but what about the characters who only appeared once? Where did they go? What are they up to now? I watched every single episode and searched through all the wikis to find out what happened to each one-time character. First up, we absolutely have to talk about the glimpse we got into the future, specifically Candace and Jeremy's kids. From that wild time-traveling episode, Phineas and Ferb's Quantum Boogaloo. We got to meet Amanda, Xavier, and Fred Johnson, and man, was that a trip. Amanda is basically Candace's twin, but everything about her mission is flipped upside down. Instead of trying to bust her brothers, her whole goal is to get them to do something. Anything at all, besides just sitting under a weird futuristic digital tree in their yard. The irony is just delicious. Candace spent her entire youth trying to shut down her brother's epic projects, and her own daughter is desperate to get her kids to start one. Amanda gets super frustrated when she asks them what they're doing, and they hit her with that legendary line, "Nothing," even when they're in the middle of building 5-dimensional bumper cars. She runs to her mom to complain, and Candace is just totally chill about it, which has to drive Amanda nuts. It's a perfect, hilarious reversal. We actually heard her name mentioned a few times in earlier episodes, like the best lazy day ever, so you know Candace had her future family all planned out. And yeah, the show's creators confirmed that Jeremy is the dad, which was pretty obvious. She even has his nose, a neat little detail for sharp-eyed fans. Then you have her two brothers, Xavier and Fred. The masters of doing nothing, at least at first. They are unbelievably chill, just hanging out by the tree. Xavier's the talker of the duo, which totally makes him the Phineas of the pair. He even looks a lot like his dad, Jeremy, with the same blonde hair and blue eyes, so the family genes are strong with that one. Fred is the quiet, stoic one, a perfect parallel to Ferb. He's got brown hair, which is a bit of a head scratcher since Candace has red hair and Jeremy is blonde. Maybe it's a throwback gene from one of the granddads. Or maybe it's just one of those cartoon things you're not supposed to overthink. Fred barely says a word, but when he does, it's usually something incredibly literal and deadpan. Like, I'm sitting next to him. Their whole world changes when their younger uncles, Phineas and Ferb, pop in from the past. Seeing the first pair work together is what inspires their own creative genius. It's also super cute how, when they meet their uncles, Xavier immediately points to Phineas and says he likes him, while Fred points to Ferb. They were a perfect little mirror of the main cast, right down to Isabella finding out she's going to be their future aunt, which was a massive breadcrumb for all the Finnabella shippers. They show up, give us a peek at the Flynn-Fletcher legacy, and then vanish back into the timeline. A classic one-off wonder. Let's stick with the family theme for a minute, but let's go way back in time, before Perry the Platypus became the iconic pet. The Flynn-Fletchers had another animal companion, a dog named Bucky. We only ever hear about Bucky. In the episode, it's about time, and the way we learn about him is through a hilariously dark joke. The family is visiting the Danville Natural History Museum when Lawrence points out a dog skeleton that was dug up in their very own neighborhood. Phineas, with his childlike innocence, sees the collar on the skeleton has a tag that reads Bucky and asks, "Didn't we have a dog named Bucky who got sick and went to live on kindly old man Simmons' farm?" It's that classic gentle lie parents tell their kids when a pet passes away. Lawrence gets incredibly frustrated and tries to change the subject as fast as he can. To make the joke even darker and funnier, the very next museum exhibit is the actual skeleton of Old Man Simmons himself. Lawrence just panics and offers to buy everyone milkshakes to create a diversion. It's a lightning-fast moment, but it tells you everything. Bucky was the family dog. He passed away, and Lawrence used the old "he went to a farm" excuse. Never in a million years thinking they'd stumble upon his actual fossilized remains. We never learn anything else about Bucky, like what he looked like, what kind of dog he was, just that he existed and his final resting place became a public display. Poor Bucky. Now let's talk about some of the extended Fletcher family. In My Fair Goldie, we get to meet Lawrence's brother Adrian Fletcher and his entire family who come to visit from England. Adrian is Lawrence's lifelong friendly rival. They have this ongoing competition about literally everything. From who can hold their breath longer to who can wear more shirts at once, Adrian is intensely competitive and loves to boast when he wins. But the sweet part is that Lawrence usually just lets him win. Adrian is a massive football fan, or soccer as they'd say in Danville. He's so obsessed, he named his children after legendary footballers. He has 2 sons named Pele and 3 sons named Beckham. Just imagine trying to call them in for dinner. The whole reason for their trip to America was to see their favorite team, the Snifferton Nostrils, play a match. Adrian looks completely different from Lawrence. He has this long rectangular head and curly brown hair, and some people have pointed out he kinda looks like John Arbuckle from the Garfield comics. He's just a big, goofy, competitive dad who provided a lot of laughs. His kids were a whole story on their own. There were 5 boys, including the Beckhams and Pelés, who were a crazy bundle of energy. His daughter, Eliza Fletcher, was the real star of the family. She's around Candace's age and is her complete and total opposite. Eliza is incredibly prim, proper, and elegant, the absolute picture of a sophisticated English lady. Candace, in her never-ending quest to get Jeremy's attention, finds out he's an Anglophile, someone who loves all things British. So she immediately begs Eliza to teach her the ways of British etiquette. Eliza is surprisingly patient with Candace's frantic energy and gives her lessons on how to be a lady. There's a fantastic musical number where Eliza is teaching Candace, and the classical music suddenly smashes into punk rock when she starts talking about things a lady should not do. This is a great hint that she has a rebellious side hidden beneath her smooth exterior. The whole thing is a clever nod to Eliza Doolittle from My Fair Lady. She's actually really cool. She doesn't bat an eye at Phineas and Ferb's giant inventions and cleverly tells Candace that a true lady shows self-restraint by not trying to bust her younger siblings. In the end, Jeremy admits he likes Candace just the way she is, and Eliza isn't the least bit surprised. She and her family were a fantastic one-off addition, giving Ferb a little more backstory and providing a hilarious new obsession for Candace. Keeping it in the family, let's chat about Linda's sister, Tiana Weber, who we meet in Candace's big day. Tiana is Phineas and Candace's aunt, and she's getting married to her fiancé, Bob Weber. Candace is over the moon because years ago, Tiana promised a 10-year-old Candace that she could be her bridesmaid. So naturally, Candace is put in charge of planning the wedding, and you can just imagine the chaos and stress. Tiana is a super nice and chill person, which is a great contrast to Candace's constant state of panic. She is incredibly patient and just rolls with the punches when Candace is having a meltdown. She and Linda are clearly very close. They look alike with their red hair and even go to the spas together. It's a really nice, normal, sisterly relationship, but what's really cool about Tiana is that she is one of the very few adults who is completely in on the secret of Phineas and Ferb's genius. The boys, of course, decide to help with the wedding and build a breathtaking, gigantic ice sculpture of Tiana and Bob. Tiana gets to see the sculpture in all its magnificent glory right before it inevitably melts away. She doesn't question it, she's not shocked, she's just genuinely amazed and grateful. It's so refreshing to see an adult just accept the boys' incredible feats without any fuss. After the wedding, she and Bob head off for their honeymoon in the Galapagos Islands, and we never see them again. A bit of fun trivia is that Tiana was named after one of the show creator Dan Povenmire's real-life sisters, just like Linda. He said he created the character so his other sister wouldn't feel left out, which is incredibly sweet. Okay, we already mourned poor Bucky, but what about Steve, the awesome chameleon from The Lizard Whisperer? Phineas and Ferb find this little orange North American chameleon and of course decide to adopt him. Ferb forms a special bond with Steve, feeding him mushrooms, and becoming his best friend. Steve is a pretty anxious little guy. He's terrified of loud noises, and whenever he gets scared, like when Candace inevitably screams, he turns completely invisible. This naturally becomes the central problem. Candace is trying to show her mom the new pet, but every time she yells for Linda to come look, Steve vanishes. It's a classic Candace predicament. The real chaos kicks off when one of the Doofenshmirtz inventions, the Gigantinator, accidentally zaps Steve. He balloons to a height of 40 feet and starts wandering through downtown Danville like a lizard Godzilla. During his giant phase, Isabella actually gets to ride on his back, which is awesome. Major Monogram and Carl spot the giant Steve on their surveillance monitors and hilariously mistake him for a dinosaur. Monogram even makes a joke about recruiting Steve into the Oka, but says that they don't have a hat that big. Eventually, Doof's ray zaps Steve again and he shrinks back to his normal size, just in the nick of time for Linda to see him as a perfectly normal, tiny chameleon. So, none the wiser about his kaiju adventure, Linda lets the boys keep him. We don't see him again, so we can only assume he's living a quiet and probably mostly invisible life in the boys' bedroom. For one episode, we also had Goldie the goldfish in Backyard Aquarium. Phineas and Ferb get this new pet goldfish, and in true Phineas and Ferb fashion, they don't just keep her in a little bowl. No, they decide to build her Goldie's Aquarius Extravaganza, a massive, incredible aquarium show right in their backyard. Ferb just casually pulls out the blueprints. After building it, they realize Goldie looks a little lonely, so they head to the ocean to get her some friends. They bring back a whole bunch of marine life, including an orca. The first thing that happens is the orca eats Goldie and then sprays her out of its blowhole. Instead of being horrified, Phineas sees it as an awesome trick and decides to make it part of the show. Candace, of course, ends up falling into the whole mess and becomes an unwilling participant in the extravaganza, getting flipped around by dolphins and carried by the orca, all while the audience cheers. Goldie is just a playful, happy little fish through it all. After the grand finale, the boys watch as Goldie and all her new ocean friends decide to just head out into the sea together. Now, we all know a freshwater goldfish probably wouldn't survive in the saltwater ocean, but hey, it's cartoon logic. For one day, Goldie was the star of the world's greatest aquarium show, before finding her freedom. A pretty good life for a goldfish. Professor Mystery from the episode Lost in Danville is a real evil scientist from Seattle and the official nemesis of another Oka agent, Peter the Panda. This Professor Mystery is true to his name, shrouded in secrecy. He wears a black ski mask with a big M over the eyes, so we never see his face. His whole tragic backstory is that his parents, Bernie and Denise, accidentally created a black hole and got so obsessed with containing it that they launched themselves into orbit, abandoning him. This abandonment led him down the path of evil. His whole beef in the episode is with Doofenshmirtz. He finds out that Peter the Panda has been assigned as Doof's temporary nemesis while in Danville, and he feels totally betrayed, like Doof stole his nemesis. So he kidnaps Doofenshmirtz and takes him back to his lair in Seattle to confront him. The problem is, Professor Mystery has a communication problem. His catchphrase is, "Mystery is my allure," so he refuses to talk to anyone, even his own nemesis. Doofenshmirtz, of all people, has to convince him that he needs to open up and talk to Peter to fix their relationship. It all leads to this big confrontation where Perry and Peter show up to stop Mystery's unexistinator. Even though his plan fails, Mystery is happy because he finally got Peter's attention. They end up going for coffee, and he finally tells Peter his whole sad story. And just when you think it can't get more wholesome, his parents, Bernie and Denise, show up. They crash-landed earlier in Phineas and Ferb's backyard inside a weird capsule, with Bernie hilariously telling everyone he's their future self, much to his wife Denise's annoyance. They were trying to contain that black hole this whole time. After the capsule gets zapped away, they end up in Seattle, where they find their long-lost son. They have this tearful reunion, and they're so proud that he grew up to have a nemesis, even if they're a little confused that the nemesis is a panda. It's such a weirdly sweet and complete arc for a set of characters we only see once. Professor Mystery goes from being a jealous villain to a reconciled son, all thanks to some advice from Dr. Doofenshmirtz. We have to talk about Gerinda Boubenvier from Imperfect Storm. This is a woman from Doofenshmirtz's traumatic childhood in Drusselstein. As he tells Perry, this girl named Gerinda would constantly, for no reason, pour water on his head. No matter where he was or what he was doing, like taking a bath, standing as a lawn gnome, she would find him and douse him. He finds out through a magazine that she's moved to Danville, and there's a big party being held in her honor, so naturally he builds a Saganator to finally get his revenge and humiliate her in public. But when he finally gets to the party, completely soaked after a mishap with his own invention, he confronts the woman he thinks is her. She points him to the real Gerinda, who recognizes him immediately, and then comes the big twist. Gerinda explains that she only picked on him because she had a huge crush on him and didn't know how to show it. It's the classic pulling pigtails on the playground trope. She even gives him a hug. For a second, it looks like Doof might get a happy ending, but then he clarifies that he's soaking wet because he was planning to douse her with his Soganator. Gerinda is furious that he held such a petty grudge for so long, and she and the other women grab buckets of water and pour them all over him. It's such a perfect, tragic, and hilarious end for Doofenshmirtz. He finally finds out his childhood tormentor was actually an admirer, only to ruin it all himself. Finally, in Buford Confidential, we meet Bridget, the leader of a French fireside girls troupe. She is super stylish, with a long-sleeved uniform and a beret, and she totally catches Buford's eye. And the feeling is mutual. The two of them are seen having tea at a little cafe in Paris, and we find out that Buford actually learned to speak French just because Bridget told him it was easy. That's a serious commitment for a guy like Buford. But here's the catch. Bridget has an image to maintain. She tells Buford that she's vaguely interested in him, but then she slaps him and says she could never be seen with him in front of her friends because it would spoil her reputation. It's a classic case of a tough girl exterior hiding her real feelings. Bridget and her troupe, Josette and Colette, were great one-offs that expanded the world of the Fireside Girls internationally and gave Buford a memorable, if complicated, love interest. But if you thought that was crazy, wait until you see the complete Phineas and Ferb timeline explained. Click the video on screen to find out.